We probably did that.
And you can use this one on, it would just be nice with the public being here, the public hearing, so you could just ask if she wanted to speak, maybe speak in about something in the last meeting. Would you be able to draw that before?
What do you mean?
It's really not.
Jeff, I won't be at the next meeting. Next council meeting.
So it's there?
Did you restart?
I have like 5 times.
You might have to go back to. You might have to go back to restore to a prior date.
I wonder because the computer.
That's odd because
I'm
usually.
like 2 years old now. So question about the student edition.
Did you do 365? See, 365 you have to renew every year. And you get a terabyte. If you did 365, depends if you bought the software, it's like $300 and you should have it for however. But if you get the 365, where you get the terabyte, you get the like all the Excel spreadsheets, you get all the Word, because each one costs money, like $200-300. A bundle. Double check. That's crazy.
Heaven and faith. Not it. Not it.
No, not this time.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Casey will take roll call. I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion moved.
Motion by Snelson,
Second.
second by Mosher. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. New business. Number 1, discussion and possible action, police department operation and direction as to services. Casey's handing out a couple of documents. We don't have a lot of options legally. So we, in looking at both ordinance, state statute, what we have to deal with, we've come up with a couple of options. We've gone close to about 3 months without an in-house supervisor. So the number one, statutorily, 62098, the mayor shall be the chief executive officer. If you look down to D, it kind of explains it a little further. The department, the members of the department, they know what they're doing. They know how to do their job. It's just a matter of scheduling. I talked to Lieutenant Boland today. He's got them all squared away with the necessary training to get through the next couple of months. Our main focus, and has to be our main focus and most serious focus, is getting a new chief. So what one proposal would be, the schedule would have to be looked at. Officer Baldwin had indicated that they're willing to do some things to help the process, to help maintain the level of coverage that we need. And that might include no longer having 24-hour coverage for a few months. If you look at what they presented with the call volume.
Yeah.
If you look at the call volume, I think I would want to be able to talk to the officers to see how to best deal with that on a Monday through Sunday kind of a setup. But if you look at 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., our call volumes are extremely low, and we could be able to get by with something like that. A lot of the things that the day-to-day supervision, day-to-day operations, these guys know what they're doing. There's certain things that administratively would need to be done, such as signing criminal complaints, and those can be handled by the duty officer. I did talk to the sheriff's department about this option. They would be able to assist in the event of an emergency. That's obvious. But it would be a possibility. So that's one of the options. The second option is, if you look at our organizational chart, the city administrator is above all the department heads, chief of police and the fire chief. That's the least desirable option for Casey. She doesn't want that one. However, 1 and 2 would work hand in hand. Budgetarily, budget-wise, she would be able to assist in 1 and 2 becoming 1. And then the third option is having the officer in charge, or having the PFC name one of the current officers as an interim. We spoke to our legal advisor today. There's a lot of contractual hurdles with that. Also, you'd have to look at our chief job description, and the candidates that would throw their name in the hat would have to prove that they meet those requirements. One of the things that was indicated by Officer Baldwin was that they would forego their vacations to see us through this. Again, that would be a contractual issue that would have to be addressed with the city and the unions. So there seems to be a few more hurdles with that one. So I guess I'd open it up for questions, if anybody has any input.
It seems like at the our last meeting, there was of interest of an officer that would step up as interim chief, as well as it seems like there was signed affidavits of part-timers that would be more than willing to come full-time, and there are part-timers that would be willing to come to our city to work. It seems to be the most logical choice, a person that has 25, 26 years of experience in New Holstein.
We also have the non-represented employee in the handbook. We can elevate temporary employees to full-time hours. with the potential of some benefits. So that would fall under the first option.
That seems to be the most logical and simple and cost-effective means, because I know with everything that has happened, I believe with Von Briesen or Mr. Gulia and Mr. McMahon and Jeff Romero from McMahon and Associates, I believe from last year to this year, we spent roughly $71,000 on their services. And this is the third time that we had, this had come up. The first time was after the public hearing. There was a motion to strike out the consolidation of the police department. That was, I believe, in October, November. Then, January 20th, there was a vote by the council to keep the police department of 6-2. And now we just did it again, so this is the third time. And I know there was a display that there was concern that, oh, nobody wanted to step up, but I believe Mr. Baldwin had said and gave all council members his affidavit stating that he would step up to the plate.
We're talking about that, Richard, and
And-
we talked to our legal advisor, and he's advised us there's a number of hurdles in order for us to go that route.
We should be here in front of the council so we can ask him all them questions.
So one thing that from what I understand from trying to dissect this from last week, leaving the meeting saying, okay, now what? Is to say, okay, police and fire commission, and if I'm wrong, someone let me know, is in charge of appointing that interim chief. So it's gonna be up to them, who are meeting tomorrow night, to look at the candidates for that. But come June 1st, if those candidates aren't qualified, come June 1st, who's overseeing the department? That's what I think Jeff is trying to allude to, that we have three options right now as a council to say, which of those three options do you guys want to do? Because they could leave police and fire commission without an interim chief. Then who's running that department June 1st? Am I
Correct. May 31st, June 1st at 12 a.m., we have nobody running the department. We have no structure. So what we're simply trying to do, these three options, if you look at, there's 4 more things on the agenda, they will be addressed.
What is a lieutenant, and why did we switch from lieutenant to captain? That's just some history
It was done years ago because it allowed, the captain's title allowed you to go to a higher level of training.
But is a lieutenant considered a supervisor?
Yes, so is a sergeant, so is a
And are
corporal.
they in part of the union or not then?
It depends on what the contracts, however the contract, like, I think the sheriff's department sergeants are contractual or not? I'm asking you that. Okay, yeah, so they would be not in the union, right?
I just wondered if someone could be a lieutenant temporarily or
That's,
something. When they have-
it's hard to explain to somebody that doesn't know the
Would you be
It's the
willing
same,
to do
if
that?
I can speak up here, Jeff, there.
go ahead.
It'd be about the same kind of promotion from captain to lieutenant, really doesn't mean much, it's the first line supervisor is what it is. So we'd have the same hurdles for either position, that's just the name and title, and that's what the city of New Holstein went with.
I know Kirsty's got enough on her plate with everything. And with the three options as suggested, would you be willing to do that if asked? When you have a problem, you were a captain for how many
I
years?
just want this over with.
Yeah.
I want us to move on.
Because it's an interim for the interim.
It's not interim. It's just helping with the minor things. You know, it would if the guys needed something, specialized something, this or that. You know, I would hope that I could get it a little bit quicker. It wouldn't put any of those guys in a position if something comes up that involving a fellow officer. They're gonna be the ones that ultimately determine the best schedule because it's those guys that are working it. And the other thing is we have to look at their safety and well-being. You know, they can't keep going like this for months and months and months. With Tommy out of the school, you know, they do have the June schedule set, but like you've seen that in some of the paperwork, the employees, the part-time employees would have to start getting some benefits. You know, it would have to be an option that the Police and Fire Commission ultimately would be the one to determine if in fact one of the officer in charge or the interim would be qualified to do so. They're the ones that have to make the appointment. And if they determine, if you look at the job description, I have an idea as to, you know, all three's experience. You know, I'll use Baldwin as an example. He's got them all except the 3 years minimum supervision.
Can I say something else, too? Another thing that was brought up at the last meeting was some of our part-timers, and I pulled the report to show actual hours worked, is that we have part-timers who are now at the point where we need to do a 6-month look back and offer health insurance. So we are gonna be up against an additional $6,000 to have health insurance for one of those individuals. So I wanted you to be aware of that. No matter which path you take, that's just the path we're heading down. So if Jeff would be, you guys approved to have him kind of do the oversight until an interim chief comes in, then that part-timer could be elevated up to full-time temporarily. That's what he was bringing up with the handbook rules in there. But it's just a cost that you guys have to be aware of, but it's just the situation that we're in.
Out of curiosity, now to my understanding, the Police and Fire Commission, which is created and acknowledged, is supposed to be a complete separate entity from the council as a whole. So they do hire, fire, discipline.
Correct.
And that would fall, and we acknowledge them as a fixture. So that would be solely based on their decision what they'd want to do, correct? So an interim chief or whatever we decide, it's not really our choice to bypass what the police and fire is. Like say make you as an interim or whatever is Mr. Conkle's.
It's not interim. Get away from interim. It's
Perfect.
statutorily, the mayor is the executive officer. So it's just like Officer Baldwin said, we're gonna get them the tools that they need to perform their jobs. It's nothing more than making sure that the schedule with Casey's, the budgetary side of it, making sure that we meet all that. You know, and if it's really, you know, I did it for 20-some years. I don't want to do it. I just want this over. I just want us to move on. I just want us to get back, get what we need, and move on from there. You've got the addition of Chuck Mavis on the PFC. I think he's going to be a tremendous asset. I would like to see them continue to try and find us an interim chief with the qualification necessary, but you know, hopefully this is short term. Couple of, I would think we do have, but that's later on. Listing. So this is just a temporary fix, in hopefully, you know, a month at the most, but we'll make do.
Well, I guess if you're willing to take on that supervisory role for a short period of time, I think you probably are the most qualified.
So I gotta ask, what do you guys think?
No, I'm not gonna say that. To say the least, this last year has been difficult. We're here for whatever reason. Both sides have fired shots across the bow. We should have taken interim years back. Now or months back. Now we're saying, you know, we're acknowledging that was the issue for us. We would have had to leave the union, had an agreement to come back in. There's hoops. None of this has been insurmountable, and it seems like every choice that has been put before us has been this led to this, and just a big domino effect. But it is what it is. You guys set the job descriptions, so you guys can do, you know, whatever legal things you guys need to do.
is more than qualified, to step up. I'm missing some of them, but have some of the other ones. We're more than willing to do it, but if the council is going to stand behind us, we are willing to do our jobs to the best or better than our abilities. So I think it's just that we're just at a point where we need to make a decision, and somebody needs to say, like Jeff said, we had the vote, we're moving on. So if we know that you have our backs, you know that we have your back. So I think there's been a lot of things have been said, and we felt like we're just out there hanging inconclusively. So if you guys are gonna back us, we are gonna be here doing what we can to move this department and the city forward. So, like I said, you guys set the job description, so you can do it whatever you want.
I'm not looking to supervise, I'm just looking to get us through this. Well, hopefully it's a month, to get something more concrete, and, we get this chief, we get a chief hired. That's simply what it
If I
is.
come upstairs and tell you that we need the car fixed and you get the car fixed,
Okay,
I'm not gonna fight you.
okay.
But
You guys gotta figure out the schedule. You guys gotta figure out the schedule, cause you guys gotta work. I don't care if we go with a 10-hour day, whatever works for you guys, but you guys gotta have some time off.
I believe with the June schedule that we did, we made sure that we all had at least 2 days off at a stretch. We're working long hours. Chuck's gone for 2 weeks. Corey's gone for a week for some training.
In July, you'll be able to do the same thing.
Yeah, in July,
well, July will be plus an
Chuck
officer,
won't be
'cause we'll
gone
go
for
back.
2 weeks. Should be a little easier come July
Right.
with Corey and Chuck not being gone as extensively. But it does seem we would need to use part-timers more so than the 32-hour minimum requirement to keep them from getting benefits. And I know we've done it with part-timers in the past where they got the benefits. when
Historically.
Chuck was deployed. Mike Golbach and Aaron Sharbaugh both had health insurance at one time because they worked over the minimum for health insurance. So I'm just hoping that with the police department, city council, the city administration, we can figure out solutions to these hurdles and get things going. I believe our policy says that in the absence of the chief and the captain, the most senior officer is in charge.
Right.
So I could handle signing criminal complaints.
Well, you don't even do,
Discipline would be an issue.
you wouldn't even need to do that, Rob. I talked to Eric today, and who's ever working days can go
Right.
handle that. So those are just minor things, just the stuff like Chuck's talking about. If it's equipment, if it's, you and Chuck, or hey, we need to flip a cord, I'll flip the cord. We'll figure it out. What about the other thing, the shutting her down at 3 a.m. on, certain nights? County covers.
Coming into summer, I mean, if we have to, we have to, but if we've got the personnel to take care of our own, why outsource it?
I'm not, it wouldn't be outsourcing.
Well,
They would,
if
they would be,
them, yeah,
you guys
I
would,
get-
who's ever coming on duty would be on call. Would be the guy that would be called in.
yeah.
It's
I get
just,
the concept, but like I said, June's gonna be a pain. That's just the way it is. We've got training, the Army's gonna inherently screw everything up. But come July, I'm back, Corey's back, coming out of the school. So we're sitting at 5 guys that can work.
Right.
We can cover 24/7 with 5.
Okay.
We really just need to have a chief or somebody or a 6th officer in place by September when we lose Corey to the school. He's not
Right.
going.
my best case scenario is if would be August, best September would be spot on, if everything goes according to plan. And there's 3 other steps to the agenda that would hopefully address some of those issues.
To my understanding, the police and fire had offered it to some of the officers, the interim chief, and maybe perhaps the level of uncertainty that if the department was going to be there or not, they may not have taken it. But I think with this sworn affidavit or the emails going out that people are willing to step up because they know that the city is going to keep its police department. I think we should let the
They
police and
just
fire do
admitted
their
why
job.
they didn't, no one took the interim the first time, because
Right.
it's contractual issues.
It's dealing with their contract as a police department and leaving the union to be the chief.
Interim.
They can act as interim chief until a full-time chief, and that's been done in other or other
Well,
areas.
we're going by the words of our attorney. I didn't know you were an attorney, so I don't know why you're speaking on
The
attorney.
interesting thing is I had talked to other agencies. and
I'm
that's what
sure
they
you
Okay,
said.
have.
point of order, we're getting off topic, Richard. We had,
That
the
is
police and
topic.
fire, the police and fire commission will ultimately make that decision.
Yep.
If that's the direction we go. So right now, we have three options in front of us.
So we can't just take this option until the police and fire decide if they're gonna put an interim in then, correct?
We're deciding which
We're
one,
deciding.
which one we're gonna go
Can you
with.
just tell, what are the three, just bullet point them for me?
The statutory, that the mayor is the executive officer, the mayor shall, you've got it in front of you.
I know, I heard the whole thing.
With a combination of anything budgetarily will be with Casey as assistance. Or Casey just runs the show, or the officer in charge, or the direct the PFC to name an interim, the interim.
I feel like your question, when you put the question to them, and maybe, and this is my understanding of it, was, are they comfortable with you on paper being the supervisor until a chief is found?
But I don't, it's not
What are,
supervised,
what are,
Well, I mean, on paper, the chief, I mean, in charge of it, on paper.
No,
not interim.
No, I didn't say interim. I mean, we're talking about who has the administrative duties that a chief would have until there is one, right? Like, what would your role be that we're voting, that we're deciding on tonight?
Whatever needs to be decided, executive wise,
Give an example for,
scheduling, the schedule, the
So you
final
were
schedule.
asking, are they comfortable with us making that you? That's what we were asking them, right?
And
And I don't know that.
well, apparently it must be because they shared it with us just a little bit ago, that they're willing to work those schedules and to take up the necessary hours.
Right.
I mean, what other alternative do we have if he doesn't?
I'm just clarifying it so I understand what we're actually going to put forth for a motion. If someone's
Right.
gonna move to do something, that was my understanding, is that you kind of pushed it to them to say, are you comfortable with you just being on paper primarily, you and Casey handling those things until a chief is hired? That's one option.
Right.
Okay, I understood that and I seemed fine with it.
So you're asking the council to decide if you shall be the chief executive officer?
No, I am, Richard, I am,
Yes.
statutorily, I am.
Okay. But now, for making out schedules, they're completely competent enough in creating schedules, correct? Or are part of schedule making?
Yep.
And what else are you trying, or what else do you think that you need to help them with, that you're asking the council to vote on right now?
Whatever comes up, Richard, whatever
Somebody
comes
has
up.
to be appointed as it, so that
Right.
come June first at midnight, we have to decide somebody has to be in charge
Right.
just until
Right.
the chief is hired.
Who
And,
gives
and
the authority, excuse me, Rich, who gives the authority if a car breaks down? And do we replace it? The engine shot, who's gonna make that decision?
Boy, it seems like that's the police and fire commission
No,
job.
That has
No,
nothing
it's
to do
not.
with it.
Richard, they don't know.
That has nothing to do with it.
Police and fire
This is
commission is
everyday-
personnel
Eric?
and
Correct.
personnel only.
So that would be part of
Oh,
an
go ahead.
interim chief would do that, correct?
We don't have one.
Correct, and that's up to the police and fire.
To a point.
That is
If
correct.
we
But
So
in
then
the
we need
meantime-
to talk about this after the police and fire have their meeting.
No,
You
we
you
need
have the
to,
three options. Eric, did you have something?
No, go ahead.
Motion to table this until after the police and fire have a decision on if they put an interim chief in or not.
Richard, we have to
We
decide
have to
that.
decide.
We are recommending it to the police and fire commission.
Exactly.
They
thought-
take our
Right.
recommendation. The council's recommendation is what they feed off. So we have to recommend on what we
Right.
think we need to do, and then they go to PFC tomorrow, and then they kind of vote on it. this is the step they're gonna take after we
Right.
recommend this to them.
I
Well,
think
they
it's tricky because of all of what's all gone on for the past 9 months. That's what makes it a kind of weird situation because lots of side talk has happened and lots of
Right,
people saying all kinds of things. So the question is, if they're comfortable with Mayor Hebel for the time being at midnight on June 1st, temporarily just, if things have to be decided so that one of them wouldn't make those decisions because we need them to be working, doing the job because we are short-staffed.
I think after the PFC would have a meeting, and if they decide to or not,
Somebody
then
wanna
we'd
make
have
a
to make
motion?
it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, the assignment as chief executive officer would be, Mayor Hebel.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Conkle, second by Wolfle to follow state statute 62098 A and D.
Move to table this until after the police and fire have their meeting.
Any discussion?
There'd have to be a second if somebody wanted to second that.
Mr. Snelson has a motion to table it till after the PFC. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Wolfle?
No.
Fran?
Are we doing the same thing,
We're-
Scott?
You're doing,
I'm saying no.
Snelson?
Yes.
Rather?
Yes.
Mosier?
No.
Hess?
No.
Mayor?
No.
Conkle?
No,
okay, we have a motion and a second on the initial motion of 6209 8 A and D. Any discussion?
The reason I don't wanna do that is because we cannot keep delaying this. I think we have to give the PFC direction of what to do so that tomorrow when they meet, we cannot go days and weeks kicking it down. This is critical so that we can get the recruiting effort started. So that's why I don't want, we are telling them how they should proceed. If the officers are okay with this, that's why I just wanted to explain why I had my no vote.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Wolfle?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Snelson?
No.
Rather?
Okay, what are we voting on right now? If Hebel is overseeing it temporarily until a chief is hired.
Or an interim is found.
Yes.
Mosier?
Yes.
Hess?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Conkle?
yes.
Motion carried. When can you guys meet to have a little chat? Afterwards? Tonight, after this meeting?
Have a meeting.
Oh. I'm okay with that.
Could you?
Okay.
Oh, wait.
All four of you guys? Four of you?
Corey's not here.
Okay. All right, discussion and possible action on job descriptions for police chief and police captain. The police captain, I think we can table it until a later date. I think we wanna find a chief first, unless you wanna talk about the captain.
Can I just comment about this?
Go ahead.
So based on some responses I received after last week's meeting, I took a look at the job description, and the items that are highlighted in pink were additions, and some of them were just grammatical corrections. But this was just a starting point to your discussion on the job description. On the back page, we're under qualifications. It's based off of McMahon's recommendation on what qualifications should be required for that position.
As well as our labor attorney.
And labor attorney.
Is this open for discussion right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was one of the ones who gave some feedback, and over the course of the last few months, I guess, just bits and pieces of sitting at meetings and now being at meetings, one of the things that had come up was that our chief is not a patrolling chief, and that was recent history how it had been. So I thought it'd be a great time to update the job description so that when we start recruiting for a chief, that's the expectation set, is that there'll be a patrolling chief
Correct,
because of the size of our community, and I think that does make a lot of sense.
correct.
And also the reason I think captain is worthy of discussion is that, I don't know if it's in the job description for captain or not, but that they would not also be on first shift then, that the captain would be on second or third, to split up those two positions to not both be on first shift. That seems heavy supervisory wise to me personally, but I'm just, those are just some ideas I had to maybe make it more economically make sense, or, you know, if it's what we ever at one point wanted as a city, as a mayor, as the administration, that it makes sense, we are now starting from scratch to put forth the expectations that we want for those positions to be, so that when we recruit, then there's no question when people start, that we have kind of built what we want.
Well, I'd like to see it in there, a working chief, in the rotation, because with the chief not in the rotation, it creates, 12 open shifts a month?
At least 6, without looking at the schedule.
I think it's, because before it was a 5-2, but,
And just as a point of reference, that is how Keel has it set up, and I did learn a lot about that, and it does seem like that works really well. I mean, just as an example of a nearby place that does it that way.
How do they have it set up?
They have it where he's a patrolling chief, so he works first shift Monday to Friday, and he's the main
That's the way it
patrol.
should be.
And then, they worked it out with their school liaison, that if he does have to go to a meeting or has to do something, the school liaison picks that up just while he's busy. But for the most part, he is the one, but then his captain is on third shift. And then they're in charge primarily of a lot of the paperwork with training and a lot of the scheduling of training. He still oversees all of it, improves all of it, but they do a lot of his paperwork, so that frees him up to be patrolling during the day. Thought it was a good model, and I think it's successful for them. They seem like they're doing well.
And Jeff, just to be sure, that was basically what it was back when you were the captain too, wasn't it?
right, it was, we both worked 6-3,
You split.
and then, but then it switched to 5-2. The previous mayor changed his schedule, or the chief changed his schedule, I'm not sure, because neither one could tell me. I think we want it to be a working chief, period.
Yep.
And, but there are things that I don't wanna tie the next chief's hands, because, you know, when you look at the call volumes, the guys, they are busy. 9 to 10, so I don't necessarily, I think it just simply has to be that the chief and the captain, don't work together. We wanna spread it out, you know, so that, because before I think there was 9 hours of supervision and 8 hours the chief and the captain were working together. You wanna see it spread out, because Holstein primarily it relies heavily on part-timers, so if you could push the supervision out a little bit further, I think that would be beneficial. But I just think we simply need to get the ad has to indicate that it's a working chief. And I think that, you know, we can tweak the job description to meet that.
I like patrolling chief, because I think all chiefs work, no matter their shift or whatever their job duties are, but that's just a personal
Sure.
preference.
Well, that's what, if you look at the pink box, Fran,
Was that how it was advertised with McMahon Associates? A working chief?
we have that.
That wasn't that specific. It wasn't in the job description.
Okay, I'm just simply saying, we're
Because
looking,
candidates are gonna wanna know that.
exactly.
I don't think that was the expectation at that point. If you were using the chief job description from before, that wasn't the chief.
But they
role
need to know
before.
what the hell they're applying for.
Correct, that's why.
If they're gonna be patrolling, then
Agreed.
it has to be indicated as such.
That's why we're talking about it.
And you don't wanna advertise for the captain right away? You think that would be
One of these guys could be the next captain.
but you'd prefer to have the chief fill that
Right.
position?
I think it's only fair.
Okay, just a question. I'm okay with that.
So to change where would so we have work involved.
I'd like to say something. The
Go ahead.
greater your chances, the longer you put the ad out to find a chief and captain. I still think it would probably be important to accept applications for a captain as well.
If one of them could be the next captain, could that just be something that, does a captain have similar supervisory as the chief? I mean, what's the main difference there?
In his absence, he is the chief, or, you
So
know.
if one of them wants to apply for captain, could that happen sooner rather than later, and then that would be your person in charge until a chief is hired?
The greater our chances to get this dire situation resolved by having an ad out, the sooner the better.
Let me ask
Go ahead.
one question, Jeff. The chief needs a bachelor's degree. Okay. Does a captain need to have a bachelor's degree?
She's going to get the job
She's going to
description.
get it.
She went to get the job description.
Chuck, go ahead.
There is no statutory requirement. That's why I said, you guys said that. Our newest part-timer meets the state statute requirements for either of these positions. The education requirements, that's something you guys prefer, it is not a state requirement.
But it was, you
But
said it
it's
was the lawyer.
it's professional
Oh, that's-
standards, that's what we're looking at. In any position, whether it's law enforcement, private sector, anything like that.
Do we wanna make it so limited though that, could it be or, you know how some jobs are X amount of supervisory experience or a bachelor's degree, whatever one is more. Cause if you have it be that they have to have a bachelor's, but then you get this great candidate that has a bunch of years of experience and has glowing reviews, are you putting yourself in a corner that you're not opening it up to an or situation? Cause you know, times have changed somewhat with needing a bachelor's degree for things. I don't know that we wanna limit our pool more than it already is.
So this is the one that we're gonna put out, obviously. But the one that McMahon had out, it said, an associate's degree is required and a
Right.
bachelor's degree is preferred.
That was our old description.
I know that, but
Yeah.
that's the one that we advertised as.
Mhm.
And then this one, we're just eliminating it.
Well, that was one
We're-
recommendation.
We're updating it.
We're
Because
updating it.
after our legal advisors and even, they indicated that we need to boost it up.
But that's not a requirement. Did you have a bachelor's degree when you were captain?
No. This doesn't have anything to do with me, Richard.
Oh, it's just out of curiosity, cause you were captain, right?
But we're talking about the chief's position.
Fair enough.
This is the chief.
I get it.
I just don't
But
know
it
that
says
we
on the
wanna
front,
make it
chief,
I would want,
harder.
I
Don't you
would
want
want
the best in
bachelor's
that
degree.
position?
I would.
Absolutely, but could the best have 12 years of experience as a chief or a bachelor's degree? That is how, I mean, I was in HR for many years, I didn't hire for this position, but sometimes it's commensurate experience or a degree, because sometimes experience is the best teacher and the degree isn't. What if it was a degree in communications? How does that train them to be a chief? I'm just putting it out there
Right.
that I don't know that we wanna make it harder to find a chief at this point in the game.
I think the police and fire would be able to
You have something?
evaluate.
I've got something when I get a chance, if I can get a chance.
Go ahead.
So even on the fire side of things, across the nation, it's going full-time fire chief has to have a bachelor degree. Even to be assistant or battalion chief, you have to have a bachelor degree. It's just kind of the way the nation's kind of moving, is requiring that education. I'm not saying it's right or wrong for us, but I'm just throwing that out there.
I'm just saying, I put the situation out there that you have in front of you a very qualified candidate who has 10+ years of being a chief and has good reviews from his prior job.
Well, I think there's some of the postings do say stuff like that, don't they? Experience or,
What, 10 years, 10 years experience.
Degree or equivalent experience, things of that nature are
3
sometimes
years.
in
Right.
So-
especially.
I mean, we could leave it in the job description,
Yeah.
and if you have a candidate that is qualified you make the decision that,
I think so.
If they've
I
got-
agree. I think
you
we
know, leave it in there and
that way.
make the decision if you
Right.
have a
Can you do
qualified,
that? So you can.
Just
or we
add the
change the
Just
job
did it.
description at our
But
next
you're
meeting.
changing it to a bachelor's degree is required, we don't wanna do that. We wanna leave it open, that the PFC can say, oh, this guy here
That's a
has.
grandfather clause. That's,
But
we
you're
put
changing
that in
it.
there. If this man has 10 years of experience at being a chief, he sure as hell should be looked at and without a bachelor's
Absolutely,
degree.
it should, but we're changing, and a bachelor's degree is
So
required.
strike it.
Exactly,
Well, this is just an option that Casey gave us. The things that she put in pink were based on suggestions that many of us probably sent to her.
Right.
So the patrolling chief was my thing, that's in here in pink, and so now the question is, should we say that a bachelor's is required? And my point is, I don't think we should say that, cause it limits
We
our
could
pool.
put, bachelor's desired.
Preferred bachelor's
Desired.
degree.
that's what it says
And then we could
originally.
do-
Right,
So be
Well,
it.
preferred,
Yep.
preferred's
Preferred,
fine, yeah,
Right
same
here.
thing.
but, or equivalent
Preferred, and then,
experience or
what
something.
was that
Just
again,
leave it the
Rob?
same way as the last.
Yeah.
Or equivalency, or,
It says it on the second.
Let the
bullet.
police
second
and fire
Requirement
commission,
For equivalent experience.
It says right here, unless grandfathered as provided for by Wisconsin Law Enforcement Standards Board, an associate's degree is required and a bachelor's degree is preferred. That's the
Right,
old post.
And we-
We're agreeing with each other.
Right,
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
so we
They
would,
don't have.
we would get rid of the required and go to
Just
preferred.
keep it the way it was.
Keep it the way it was.
yes.
right.
10 years of full-time.
Does that have to be, do I have to strike that in this, or what?
This is just an open
This
discussion.
is a
Okay.
discussion.
She's marking up her paper.
Oh, good.
Take our suggestion. And again, I think that was our lawyer had you put that in there, right?
For the bachelor's degree?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 consultants recommended it.
And I don't mind it saying that is preferred, but I just think, I don't wanna say required, cause
Also, if to my understanding, if a chief has to go and do court and stuff like that, you have in here, he's not eligible for overtime compensation. According to,
It's never been, we've never been
It's
paid
a salary
overtime.
position.
according to, what the actual costs were, I thought there was like maybe $1,100 or something in overtime to some of the chief and captain.
It was a special agreement between the captain and the chief that they would be compensated for emergency situations only
Right.
for overtime.
I think we need to get rid of that too, because if they have an emergency, it isn't like it's that much it isn't like it's that much. If they're on salary and if it's an emergency, they should
could
get
be
paid.
a lot though, if there ever was a time when there's another shortage or something weird, I think that it's completely.
It was
reasonable.
designed for if Brian or I got called out, an emergency. And if you spread your supervision out like we're planning to do, the likelihood of that scenario are gonna be nil. So if there was an emergency, give me an example, what do you guys?
A tornado.
Well, actually, we both did come out for that, and I came out as that's something else. Give me,
Yeah, say that
the guy, the stabbing down here. Neither one of us are working, we both get called in.
Something big.
Something
Yeah.
big, where if you spread it out, but not, the chiefs don't get emergency pay.
It's salary.
Chief-
And I
Right.
think most
Salary.
salary
It's a
jobs know
salary
that-
position.
That's all part of the job description.
That's correct.
That's all part of what his job entails is responding to that emergency. So most chiefs do not receive compensation for overtime.
That's why the bigger salary than the patrol.
And again, it's in the description, so it's the expectation that's set, so that when you're recruiting people, there's no surprises. I think that's pretty typical.
Well,
I don't think that needs to be a job description though, because that's kind of pretty well known, I think, in the public safety world.
So can we go back, where are we again? Everybody's talking, what number?
2.
2. So I just think we've discussed the changes we want, and I think,
Move to update the job description as Casey has taken notes on
Right.
the updated.
Let me just go through that for you.
Okay,
So, page 1, the first paragraph where the work involves patrolling assigned areas, responding to, that's gonna stay? You guys are comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with the changing of the word ensure? It was just spelled wrong.
Just spell, just a spell.
So removing this position is not eligible for overtime because it's common knowledge if you're an exempt, you don't get overtime pay. Is that correct?
Question for the mayor, for that first, for the patrolling, did you say that you wanted something else in there too that was like, in addition to that you wanted more clarified or something?
Was that when I was talking 6.3, that the,
Just said it was something about that, something is more spelled out there, I thought there was something.
well, in the captains, everybody have the captains? If you look at the hours, location of duties, if we put that same thing in for the chief, that will hit it. So what it says, it says, the captain works an 8-hour day on a 6 days on, 3 days off schedule. Makes sense to you guys?
So you want that added to this job
Yeah,
description?
Yes.
Okay, so then remove that this position is not eligible for overtime, just take that out of the.
Yeah.
Page 2, there weren't any edits, page 3, no edits. Page 4, it's to just change that first bullet point under qualifications back to the way it originally was stated.
Yep.
With removing the strikeouts over an associate's degree is required and preferred, and take out the word required.
On page 3, you did add an S under one of the presentations.
Oh, yeah, so I added an S in there. And then on the last page, it's just adding the letter A.
So just to clarify, we wanna put in the chief's description that they're gonna work 8 hours on 6 on, 3 off. So there's no chance that we'd have a chief do Monday to Friday, but be patrolling?
Well, I mean, it's,
Makes the scheduling easier.
go ahead, Rob.
With our department, the way it is, you worked a 6-3 while Brian worked a 5-2.
Right.
And that did seem to work. And my concern would be for a chief, if he's working a 6-3, he could end up having a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those are his 3 days off. He could have meetings scheduled
Right.
for those days. Now he's gotta come and work in on every one of his days off, or 2 of his 3 days off, so that would be a concern. And I think because we do use part-timers, the chief is a patrolling chief, and does work a 5-2. The captain works a 6-3. The chief's 2 days off on a Monday, or a Saturday and a Sunday. That can easily be filled by part-timers. They get to work that day shift, or sometimes full-timers bump up to that day shift. I think that would be something to consider when you are thinking about what kind of working patrolling chief you want to have.
But don't you guys honestly see part-time going away? I mean, part-timers are gonna get snapped up full-time. We're not gonna see part-timers like we used to. We're barely able to get them now.
It cycles.
Say, I have an answer for that.
So-
Deb's in the park.
So it can always be adjusted. That's something that can always be adjusted because it says that, we'll periodically, in our ordinance, we'll periodically look at that stuff. So I think if we were to start it out, that way it can be changed.
Correct, but I'm just thinking, keep that option open. No matter when the chief gets his days off, someone's gotta work.
Right, right.
But I didn't know if it would make it harder to recruit a chief that if it's, working weekends, especially if they already have experience that we're looking for, it might be hard to attract someone to
Yeah.
weekends.
Being that if he works that schedule, or whoever the interim chief is, and it winds up being that it's with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, or however their schedule is, and now that the captain is working a 3rd shift or something, would that chief not getting overtime be required to come in to fill in, and if it's meetings and stuff like that on his days off?
I think that it's the stability factor of it. I feel like for the chief, you'd want the Monday to Friday, like the 40 hours. I don't think you wanna put them into the rotation for weekends, because I don't know how attractive that would look when we.
Well, if we're gonna spread this supervision out, then I think it probably works at a 5-2.
This is what Chilton says. They have that in the job description. So in Chilton's description, it says, The normal work week is a 5-2 schedule. This is 5 consecutive days of work Monday through Friday, followed by 2 consecutive days off Saturday and Sunday. This cycle shall be repeated.
Sounds
I
good.
think that you attract, that's,
Yeah.
I just think it's more attractive.
You're right. So we'll go with, chief works an 8-hour day on 5-2, 5 days on, 2 days off, Monday through Friday.
So that, don't add the one from the captain's description, add this language.
Yeah.
So that, last time we had this situation, that put that individual at a 80 hours per year, and they followed our regular handbook rules. Is that seem consistent with everyone's understanding? Okay.
So Casey, excuse me, so Casey, what you're saying is there's an additional 2,040 hours in a year work, 2,080, he's put 40 hours in more?
Well, it'd be 40 hours a week, based on this 5 days on, 2 days off schedule. That puts them at a 80 hour per week, where the officers are at 1947.
But a normal year work at 40 is 2,040.
2,080.
You basically-
Oh yeah, you're right.
Okay, so then I'm gonna add that language into the job description?
Yep.
Okay.
You might attract another chief if you take 40 hours off.
That's what the hell I was trying to get at.
Okay, is everybody clear? Do you want me to go through it again?
Are you good? Anybody?
Move to approve the job descriptions as Casey has presented them.
Second.
Motion by Moser, second by Schmitz. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action, wages for police department non-represented positions. So we looked at, the posting, the last posting was 70 to 73,000. We looked at, using the 2021 budget figures, and we were able to move it up to,
79,332.
$79,332, which would have been what the previous chief would have made, so it's gone up 6,000?
Yeah, we honestly don't know where the 70 to 73 came from, but the wage set for 2021 for that position is 79,332.
Do you wanna make it a range so that you have some wiggle room of what to offer someone depending on,
That's up to you guys.
right, do you? So, whatever you think that should say, but then you have some, you're not locked in. So 75 to 79, or 76 to 79, or what, something to up to 80?
I think,
I'll caution you first, because once we do that, it's a trickle-down effect, and we gotta look at our DPW director, our library director,
Public Works.
utility superintendent, and our city administrator.
So to up it at all from the 70 to 73, you mean?
Well, if we're gonna go above what's budgeted for 2020.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to go above what was budgeted.
Oh, so you wanna, so what, 75 to 79?
Right.
I can live with that.
I can too.
I didn't mean, I was rounding, but I
Okay.
didn't mean to round.
Okay.
Move to update the pay for chief to $75,000 to $79,000 per year.
second,
Any discussion? Mosier, Snelson? None? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Possible action, direction of Police and Fire Commission and City Administrative Treasurer on filling the interim police chief and chief of police positions and procedure. So we will, direct the PFC that this is what we've come up with temporarily, that, they're immediately tasked with, getting, Casey, you all, she's gonna hand this out.
So this is just a concept I came up with. I will be attending the Police and Fire Commission meeting tomorrow night to offer any assistance that they may need in this process, but this was just a template for a marketing idea for it.
So she does have a job posting that we'll send out upon approval from the PFC. She will be, basically, her only, assistance will be administrative, budget-wise, receiving receiving things, any questions. But the PFC will be solely responsible for,
Okay, so taking a look at the top sheet would be the time frame, and it is of course up to, I think it's PFC to determine how long they wanna advertise for the position. So this was just saying, we would go live with the advertising May 31st with a deadline of July 9th. And then the different options for advertising would be on the city's website for zero cost, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, zero cost. An ad in the municipality magazine is zero. League of Wisconsin Municipalities, zero. We did submit to the Iowa League of Cities website, that's $140. The other one that we could do is the League of Minnesota Cities, that's $460. We could also reach out to the Illinois League of Cities, that's $90. Posting on WileyNet, engaging local government leaders association, and then a direct mail 2 times to the communities that are listed, and then posting on Indeed.
I would add, sending it to the Wisconsin Chiefs of Police Association. You guys think of anything else?
Do we post on these already? Some of these, Iowa? Did we do the Iowa already?
I think, yeah, I
We have to pay for it again?
Yeah.
Or-
So then the thought process, I tabbed yours, but the one I have up here isn't tabbed, so I'm gonna go through this. So the first pack would be the posting that would go on our website and to the different communities. I think I had it listed as number 1 and 11 through 17. So it's starting off with the advertisement, and then it gives a little breakdown about the community. And then it has attached to it the job description, which would be updated, and then the application. This next page that's tabbed would be the social media posting advertisement. And then the last page, it's the different postings that you do, each have their own form that you fill out, that basically I would be extracting information from the job description to complete those forms. And I think this is up for the Police and Fire Commission to approve this. It's just to show you a concept.
Right. So she'll kind of do the administrative things, marketing, anything that falls under that. Any other input, she will have none as far as the selection or anything like that. Anything else? So this would go to the PFC, that we've tasked them with this pursuit to find a new chief and an interim. And here's some of the information that is suggested, but it's up to them to have the final say.
And I can easily tweak these to be for the captain as well, so just add that category in there.
I think it's awesome.
What about if we put the captains, posted that a week or 2 later so that the chief would get hired most likely before the captain? And then maybe it would have the ability to have some say. You follow me?
If you put it all out there, and all of a sudden, hey, you got applicants there, you've hired
Okay,
a
we'll
chief
put it out at the
first.
same time, but have the deadline for it to be returned later.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, having the chief, if we can find a chief right away, letting him have some say in who the captain is makes sense.
Or, we have said that
Correct.
today.
Do we have a Facebook page? Is it active again yet? Our police
Can
stuff?
anybody get that back up, or Carter?
If
you
we've got
gotta be-
permission, we can get it up.
'Cause I
What's
was gonna
that?
say,
If you guys say we can put it up and we're gonna be here, we'll get a Facebook page.
Put it up.
and then when
Which,
these are,
go back, you gotta be pretty technologically sound now.
sure.
when
We'll
these
get
are,
that back up tomorrow.
when these are live, and they can put it there, the city website, my directive would be to every single person who fought to keep it needs to share it and share it and share it and share it and talk it up. I mean, that's all the word of mouth part of it. Like, these are all great websites, they're limited to that audience, but I think it's, like we said before, it's all hands on deck. And
You guys got any other periodicals that you can think of?
I had been on the Indeed one, looked to see
That's
what
not
that-
bad.
See what that one's about, and Sheboygan, Appleton, Green Bay, they're all advertising their listings on that one.
Yep.
And there's a lot of out-of-state stuff listed on that one.
Does that cost?
It looked like,
It's free.
Indeed.
I have it on here, it's 18 and it's free. You can post for free.
Because we're a city?
What about
Wow, we spend a lot
LinkedIn?
of money.
I'm not familiar with it, but I thought of that one.
It's on yours.
Indeed does cost, because I did that, and if you wanna attract better people, you have to pay a little extra, but it's not ridiculously
It's
priced.
not that expensive if
I-
you upgrade.
You wanna upgrade, cause when I was in my position, I dealt with hundreds, if not 1,000 people.
So
But it is-
Indeed, what about LinkedIn? I see a lot of stuff, there's a lot of cops on LinkedIn. I mean, if they cost, I'm not sure
You
how,
gotta have a
how
file.
serious we
I
are.
have a-
Cause if you go to Minnesota, Iowa, or Illinois, those guys have to jump through some hoops to get state certified.
We're not currently active on LinkedIn, so that would be something we'd have to create and then get followers and I don't really see how that
Yeah,
works.
you don't have an active page on LinkedIn.
Alright. But Indeed's pretty simple.
Very simple.
It's like Career Builder, Monster,
Okay.
it's kind of like those.
Yeah, Indeed has taken over that space
Yeah.
right now.
So Wisconsin Police
Department.
Chiefs of Police and Indeed,
Department of,
Indeed is 18.
Yeah, Indeed is already on there.
okay.
I would also add Department of Workforce Development, the state website, that's free, as long as you're an employer. Cause I've used that.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's linked into Indeed as well. But to pay for the premium, do it.
Go back.
Besides city Facebook and maybe a new department Facebook post, you can make targeted ads there that are sponsored and paid for, and they reach everyone, kind of a geography thing. So if you live in New Holstein and you're on Facebook, you'll see that posting.
And you can have a
You
radius.
can share that and it'll give you a radius. It can go a long ways. We do that at the racetrack
That's
all the
paying
time.
through Facebook, then
One of
pay,
the,
it's like ads.
one of the pages I follow on Facebook, I get ads every day from all the police chiefs or positions nationwide. They're out there. It's great.
Alright,
What's your recommendation for the motion?
so the motion would be to turn to, request the police and fire commission to, reinstate or reopen the, hiring process, for police chief and captain, as well as, attempt to locate an interim. Does that work?
I'll move.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Okay, motion by Snelson, second by, Meyer. Which one of you guys are gonna recite what I just said?
I have it recorded.
So,
It's recorded.
we're gonna direct the PFC to reopen the police chief hiring process, captain, and, attempt to locate an interim. Motion by Snelson, second by Mayor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. No further business, meeting's adjourned.
Bye, Eric.
Hi, thank you.